This is written by Jane Yolen, and the pictures are by John Schoner. So let's dive in. It was late one winter night, long past my bedtime, when Pa and I went owling. There was no wind. The trees stood still as giant statues, and the moon was so bright the sky seemed to shine. Somewhere behind us, a train whistle blew, long and low, like a sad, sad song. I could hear it through the woolen cap Pa had pulled down over my ears. A farm dog answered the train, and then a second dog joined in. They sang out, trains and dogs, for a real long time. And when their voices faded away, it was quiet as a dream. We walked on toward the woods, Pa and I. Our feet crunched over the crisp snow, and little gray footprints followed us. Pa made a long shadow, but mine was short and round. I had to run after him every now and then to keep up, and my short, round shadow bumped after me. But I never called out. If you go owling, you have to be quiet. That's what Pa always says. I had been waiting to go owling with Pa for a long, long time. We reached the line of pine trees, black and pointy against the sky, and Pa held up his hand. I stopped right where I was and waited. He looked up as if searching the stars, as if reading a map up there. The moon made his face into a silver mask. Then he called, "Hoo, hoo, hoo," the sound of a great horned owl. Hoo, hoo, hoo. Again he called out, and then again. After each call, he was silent for a moment, and we both listened. But there was no answer. Pa shrugged, and I shrugged. I was not disappointed. My brothers all said sometimes there's an owl, and sometimes there isn't. We walked on. I could feel the cold as if someone's icy hand was palmed down on my back. And my nose and the tops of my cheeks felt cold and hot at the same time. But I never said a word. If you go owling, you have to be quiet and make your own heat. We went into the woods. The shadows were the blackest things I had ever seen. They stained the white snow. My mouth felt furry, but the scarf over it was wet and warm. I didn't ask what kinds of things hide behind black trees in the middle of the night. When you go owling, you have to be brave. Then we came to a clearing in the dark woods. The moon was high above us. It seemed to fit exactly over the center of the clearing, and the snow below it was whiter than the milk in a cereal bowl. I sighed, and Pa held up his hand at the sound. I put my mittens over the scarf over my mouth, and I listened hard. And then Pa called, "Hoo, hoo, 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 hoo." I listened and looked so hard my ears hurt and my eyes got cloudy with the cold. Pa raised his face to call out again, but before he could open his mouth, an echo came threading its way through the trees. Hoo, hoo, hoo. Pa almost smiled. Then he called back, "Hoo, hoo, hoo," just as if he and the owl were talking about supper or about the woods or the moon or the cold. I took my mitten off the scarf off my mouth, and I almost smiled too. The owl's call came closer from high up in the trees on the edge of the meadow. Nothing in the meadow moved. All of a sudden, an owl shadow, part of the big tree shadow, lifted off and flew right over us. We watched silently with heat in our mouths, the heat of all those words we had not spoken. The shadow hooted again. Pa turned on his big flashlight and caught the owl just as it was landing on a branch. For 1 minute, 3 minutes, maybe even 100 minutes, we stared at one another. Then the owl pumped its great wings and lifted off the branch like a shadow without sound. It flew back into the forest. "Time to go home," Pa said to me. I knew then I could talk. I could even laugh out loud, but I was a shadow as we walked home. When you go owling, you don't need words or warmth or anything but hope. That's what Pa says. The kind of hope that flies on silent wings under a shining owl moon. So boys and girls, what I love about this story is the author really brings you into the scene with imagery. So that's a lot of descriptive adjectives. Adjectives tell us the way something feels or sounds, the way it looks. So words like big, tall, pointy, crisp, all of those words give us a picture of what's happening in the story. So the author in this story is from the state of Massachusetts, and that is where the setting of the story takes place. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the state of Massachusetts. So we are in the United States. Okay, so this is the US. Massachusetts is a smaller state up here in the northeast region. We also call New England. So it's this pink state right here, Massachusetts. So the capital of Massachusetts is Boston. And there's some cool things about Massachusetts. It's also the place where pilgrims first came to Plymouth and settled here in America from European countries. It's also known for baseball. Boston Red Sox are big teams some of you may know about. And it gets 4 seasons usually. So cold winters like we saw in the story, and you get spring and summer and autumn. So if you've never been to Massachusetts, it might be a great place to go and visit. So I'm going to issue you a challenge now based on our story. So I want you to close your eyes for a minute with me and just imagine a blank scene right now. And as I talk about some adjectives, I want you to picture this in your mind. So pretend it's a quiet night. We've got big, tall, green trees that are swaying in the wind, and the wind feels gentle and cool across your skin. And all of a sudden you start hearing soft chirping sounds of cicadas and crickets in the background. And then you hear the crackling and heat and warmth of a fire close by. And then you might want to think about making some s'mores over this fire. So you get out your graham crackers and your marshmallows and your fudge, and it's sticky and it's oozing and it's warm and it's melting in your mouth. And it's this beautiful, quiet night. So that's how we use descriptive words and imagery to create a scene. So what did you see in your mind as I was telling that story? For me, I saw peace and joy, enjoying s'mores, getting it all over my face and sticky and just having so much fun. So that's how we use imagery, and I hope that you will continue to use your imagination and think of some really great stories for yourself. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next video.